Hello, my name is AJ Avina, and welcome to my eTech 411 instructional video. Let's begin. Alright, we're going to set the stage right here. So, at this point, I want you to pause the screen and answer this question. What do nations do after a tireless and devastating war is over? I'll give you about 2 to 3 minutes to answer this question. Welcome back, and I have another question for you. What are the benefits of alliances? Please pause to think about this question. Alright, now that we've done a little warm-up, today's lesson is going to be on NATO, and we want to answer the essential question, what is NATO, and what is its relationship to the ongoing Russian-Ukrainian conflict? We're going to begin by looking over some background knowledge of what went into NATO being formed. We're going to start here. After post-World War I, Western European nations had to decide, what are we going to do now after one of the most devastating and bloody wars in human history? The Treaty of Brussels was signed on March 17, 1948, between Belgium, France, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, and the United Kingdom. The treaty is considered a precursor to NATO. So what is NATO? NATO stands for the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. It was signed in Washington, D.C. on April 4th, 1949. Established by Western nations to provide collective security against the Soviet Union, NATO was the first peacetime military alliance the United States has entered into outside of the Western Hemisphere. The founding NATO nations are as follows: Belgium, Canada, Denmark, France, Ireland, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, Italy, the United Kingdom, and the United States. In 1954, the Soviet Union suggested it should join NATO to preserve peace in Europe, but the NATO countries, fearful that the Soviet Union's motive was to weaken the alliance, ultimately rejected this proposal. In response to being rejected by NATO, Russia formed the Warsaw Pact, which was created in reaction to the integration of West Germany into NATO in 1955 and represented a Soviet counterweight to NATO. Composed of Soviet Union and 7 other Soviet satellite states in Central and Eastern Europe. These nations included Albania, Bulgaria, Czechoslovakia, East Germany, Hungary, Poland, and Romania. The Warsaw Pact would later dissolve after the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991. Following the conclusion of World War II, the main issue between the opposing nations was to divide up Germany. Germany would be divided into 4 parts. Western nations, the United Kingdom, France, and the United States would take the West, and the Soviet Union would take over East, which included the central city of Germany, Berlin. Fast forward to today. There are still certain historical themes that are prevalent into the current Russian-Ukrainian conflict. Those are geography and economics. In order to further understand the conflict, we must look at NATO today. Today, NATO is comprised of 30 nations. This is where geography plays a factor. NATO's influence moves east towards the Russian border. On our screen, we see a map of which was once Soviet Union Russia. The distinctions made are the deep red is Russia today, and the light red is landmass that they have lost over the course of the fall of the Soviet Union. Again, it's super important to recognize the geography at play and how that affects trade, global trade, and access to waterways. This is where economics plays a huge factor. As we can see, Russia's landmass is vast, but due to cold weathers, it's nearly impossible to navigate and interact in the global trade market. Again, here we see the intertwining of geography and economics playing a role. This is where Ukraine comes into the frame. Ukraine has a coast along the Black Sea and connects to the Mediterranean Sea, which opens up the entire world for this trade, to partake in trade. So why now? Due to political instability in Western nations, authoritarian President Vladimir Putin stated his goal during his declaration of war. He said, "The goal is to defend people who have been victims of abuse and genocide from the Kiev regime, and we will strive to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine." Putin hides behind ethnic genocide claims, but those are unfounded. If we look towards the history of NATO and its influence on Russia, we could see this is nothing more than a geographical and economics play, as well as an authoritative Putin thirsty for power. This concludes my presentation. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.